So I thought I'd start this video with a shot of a wood store, and there you go. And here is a stone pile. So yeah, collecting stones. So I thought I would put those shots in to the intro shots, just to make the video a bit more interesting. But today I wanted to talk about super yachts, taxation, and basically super yachts and taxation, and a little bit about how the finance works, how this world works. Now, once again, I was looking at a news report this morning, and Russia got a mention again, the invasion, the Ukraine invasion, and the West has sanctioned Russian oligarchs, and one of the things that is most visible is if you go to a YouTube channel called eSysman, you'll see this guy show you all these reports of super yachts being seized by the authorities, and they all belong to Russian oligarchs. And I suppose from a wider general point of view, not a point of view, just a wider comment really, the reason that these yachts are being seized is because they belong to oligarchs, and all these oligarchs are basically Putin's foot soldiers, and they all happen to own most of Russia's infrastructure. So, you know, anyone could take the view that it's quite a sad thing, really, that you know, these chosen people have this obscene wealth. I use that word obscene because it really is an awful lot of money, because then you find out that this fabulous yacht that they have, that costs billions anyway, they don't just have one of those, they have other yachts. So, you know, we just get to a point where it's crazy, does somebody need so much money? Anyway, I'm shooting off target, so I'll get back on. So I wanted to talk about so as the title suggests, tax havens. What are they? Now, this is a tricky, well, it's not tricky, but it's a complicated subject to discuss. And in this video, I'm wanting to more, generalize quite heavily to make some general points. Because whenever I hear the word super yachts, tax havens, instantly I think of the word and I think of taxation. And in my work experience, what having lots of money seems to mean, also it depends how you get that money. And actually my mind goes to people like Elon Musk. I think it's okay to say that Elon Musk has he's earned his wealth, and he doesn't seem to spend it on things like super yachts and big fancy houses. In fact, the guy's homeless apparently right now. I heard someone say he's the wealthiest homeless person that the world knows, and there are many other Silicon Valley billionaires that that they never grew up with lots of money. They've done something cool. It's had huge investment potential and huge value, and it's done very well, and they've got wealthy. But in this world that we live in, there are a lot of people that have inherited an awful lot of wealth, and you never tend to hear about these people because these people tend to keep themselves hidden, and their life seems to be centered around just being rich and buying stuff. But anyway, okay, so in this world that we live in, irrespective of how you got the large fortune, that there comes a point when you've reached a certain amount of money where you can sort of choose to not pay tax anymore. Well, when I say not pay tax, you will continue to pay tax, but you certainly don't pay as much as anybody else would be paying. So things like income tax you can pretty much avoid. Yeah, it's complicated. Okay, so I'm going to try and make some general points. Okay, when you get to a certain amount of money, if you are a normal person, you know that, so just roughly speaking, if you're in the UK, for example, or Europe, once you're earning a very good salary, almost half of it is in income tax, is taken off you by the state, just roughly speaking. Now, if you're earning an awful lot of money, more than what, so an awful lot of money, you can approach a law firm, and and this is where London's very interesting. Some of the best tax avoidance advice comes from the big law firms in central London, and I've heard people many times say to me, "Hey Stephen, do you know that London is capital of tax havens in the world?" And I thought, actually, I can believe that. Anyway, you can be an individual, you can be a person who owns a business or businesses, or you can just have a lot of money. And I suppose if you have just a lot of money and you don't do anything with it, well then you won't be paying income tax on it because it will just be in a bank account, or you'll have it in, you might just have it in a bank account. But if you own companies that create profit, that create wealth, if you are doing your job properly, or if you are being a normal person, that money is reported at the end of the year or monthly to your government's financial governing body, the taxation body. In the UK it's called HMRC, Her Majesty's Customs and Revenue, and so they request from you that you pay income tax. And so we have, actually, I'll just very briefly mention, we have income tax, we have VAT, value added tax. This is in the UK. We have corporation tax. We have business rates. And we have some other indirect taxes and direct taxes, actually, but we'll just stick to the big ones. So we have income tax, and we have VAT, we have corporation tax and business rates, and we have national insurance. But national insurance is actually one of the smaller ones compared to the others. Anyway, but once you are earning lots of money, you really can, say to yourself, well, I don't really fancy paying income tax anymore. I'm aware that I have to pay VAT because that's actually attached at the point of sale and I can't stop that. Actually, you can, because you can claim that VAT back. Anyway, but generally, you can be an individual, you can be, your earnings, you can own a lot of equity, and you can be receiving a large income from it. And if you haven't structured your personal financial situation in a way to avoid paying tax, you'll arrive at the conclusion you'll arrive at the point of thought where you're thinking, hold on, I'm aware that I don't really have to pay tax now. And sure enough, you can approach one of London's big law firms and you can say to them, hey, I'm Mr. So-and-so, I've got loads of money, I really don't want to pay tax. And the law firm will say, well, hello, Mr. So-and-so, you are very welcome, please come in, sit yourself down, let's talk about this. We can help you. We, this fancy law firm, you are speaking to the right guys, we can definitely reduce your tax liability, no problem at all, and it's all legal. Now, you'll sit down with them and they'll make you a cup of coffee and have polite conversation, and long story short, they will listen to you, make you sign some documents, get you to agree some fees, and then they will give it to you and they will say, okay, Mr. So-and-so, what we can do is save you X amount a year based on your current earnings. But to do this, we have to do some things. We have to restructure your financial environment. So what we're going to do is take a view on your circumstances, on how and on how you arrange your financial matters. And what we're basically going to do is restructure all that. We're going to create some offshore companies for you, and in doing this, we're going to negate the need to pay income tax in the United Kingdom. Now, also, what you may have to do is only spend a certain amount of days in the UK to qualify for this also, but that doesn't matter because you can just go abroad for you can just live in other properties around the world that you might have, or you can just live in 2 different countries. You can structure your life that way, but essentially we can definitely help you not pay tax, and we will do it with something called a special purpose vehicle, which means that we're going to set up some other companies offshore, and these companies will be the legal entities that will end up owning all your stuff, and they will be the companies that give you money, where you get your money from. And but don't worry, leave it to us, we shall do this and everything's going to be fine. Now, the reason that everybody doesn't do that is, in actual fact, the law firm charge you an absolute fortune for doing this sort of thing. So, at this point, it's only worthwhile if your tax liability is much greater than the lawyer's fees that they will charge you and all the administration fees attached to the restructuring. So, Joe Bloggs, who's on £50,000 a year, it's not going to be worth your while to do this, because the legal fees for restructuring your environment to dodge tax are going to be more than £50,000 a year. And depending on how much money you've got, how complicated your businesses are, will have a big impact on the fees that you pay a law firm to restructure your situation so you don't have to pay tax. But I suppose the point I'm really making is that this is legal. And what it really means is, as you become rich, you become richer, and without really doing anything. Once you've reached this wealthy threshold, you inevitably just get wealthier without really trying any harder to do that. Because these law firms will be providing with all sorts of advice and all sorts of services that make your life a little bit easier, and they will sell it to you because the net result is that you're wealthier. Now, I suppose at this point we can take a view, is this morally and ethically right? Because most people have to pay income tax and all the taxes as a proportion of their income, and that is way, way much higher as a proportion of their income to someone who's super wealthy. The analogy is this: if you earn, okay, just for round numbers, if you earn £100,000 a year, you are approximately paying £50,000 in direct and indirect taxation. Now, if you are earning £100 million a year, if it was fair, you'd be paying approximately £50 million a year in direct and indirect taxation. But because you have so much money, that's not going to be the case. You're probably going to be able to get that £100 million £1,000 a year, the tax liability on it, down to about 10 million. So the richer you get, as a proportion, you pay less tax. So the average Joe pays roughly 50%. A very rich person is going to pay no more than 10%. And they have much more money of it. So you can just see how absolutely unfair this is. Right from the beginning, however you want to skin this cat, however you want to take the view, wow, is that unfair. Now, then some clever chap will come along, perhaps with a PhD or with a government job title or a somebody important inside an investment bank or law firm will come up to you and say, hey, or come up to someone like me and say, hey, Stephen, look, we create wealth by giving this rich person, a tax break, i.e. making this rich person even wealthier. What that's actually going to do is help stimulate the economy and create jobs. So this is, wow, you think, this is amazing. Not only is this person getting wealthier because they're wealthy, they're now an angel, that they've now been sent from God, from heaven on high, to come and benefit the human race. So this is super, this is great. So the only thing I need to do is get wealthy, and then I will automatically get wealthier, and at the same time I will be godlike, because I'll be creating even more jobs and creating even more prosperity for everyone, and everything just gets better. So the only conclusion that I can come to is being wealthy is good, and being wealthier is just gooder. It's just better. So this is a great world that we live in. God is the king. Money is the God. Money is the king. And so all I really need to do is just be wealthy. That's it. Now, okay, I'm taking a slightly humorous take on this, but essentially what I have said is correct. You literally, the more money you have, the less tax you pay, the wealthier you become. And on the face of it, it is that crazy. And what's more crazy is it's true. If you're wealthy, you don't have to pay as much tax as anybody else, as a normal person. And as a percentage, you pay much less tax. And it's literally justified by by them saying, but I help stimulate the economy. I help grow jobs. I help create jobs. Now, this is an argument that investment banks like to offer you as an excuse, or as a defense to claims against them that they actually reduce jobs, and they victimize smaller organizations or smaller companies, and they reduce competition, because that's really what investment banks do. They are simply the admin clerks, the facilitators of one power and authority, usually the larger power and authority, simply consuming the smaller power in the context of mergers and companies. That is really what investment banks do. That they are, I know this is terrible. I sound like I'm attacking, investment banks and poor wealthy people. I'm not really attacking them. What I'm doing is pointing out the ethics and a moral view that you could take on this world that we live in, because this world allows this to happen. And it's quite obvious to see how someone can take a very glum view. It can be very miserable thinking about this stuff, especially if you're party to it or you work in these industries. I mean, you show me a happy-go-lucky, fun investment banker. I mean, introduce me to an investment banker who is happy and fun-loving and and really enjoying life. And honestly, comments below, introduce me to someone who is an investment banker and they're happy with life and happy with their job. They don't exist. Now, I was about to say, actually, why doesn't someone who's really wealthy prove that they're happy? I mean, yeah, I imagine that when you take delivery of your new private jet and your new super yacht, you're going to be happy. Actually, these people are happy for about 5 minutes, and then apparently they send private jets back. Because the colour of blue on the wing is the wrong colour of blue, and now they've seen it in the flesh, they want that colour of blue changing, that shade of blue. So the private jet has to go back to the manufacturer to have the wing repainted and the fuselage to the right shade of blue. That's how happy being rich can get you. That's what it looks like. And we know that super yacht owners, after that they'll do the same thing. The sound system isn't good enough, even though it is industry, brilliant. They'll have it for a summer, and then the boat has to go back to the dry dock, or it goes back to the place where they can have the sound system refitted, so the sound system is even more loud than it was last year. Things like that. So I suppose wealth can bring you this fabulous happiness that is so dysfunctional that the littlest thing can be a problem. And again, it just illustrates the craziness and of inequality, wealth inequality. So I'm aware that this video is a little different today because I'm touching on some serious topics, and what I'm trying to do is raise the issue, make some general points, focus or illustrate the negatives, but also illustrate the positives. So I think I've done a real hatchet job on the negatives, so perhaps I won't go any further there. But what I want to do now is pull out the positives. Now, the positives are, it makes great news headlines. So, as a source of entertainment, I suppose it's quite interesting, it's quite funny. Someone like me, I find it hilarious finding out what some rich people are doing with their money. And yes, somebody is being paid to manage these horror stories, these displays of personal disorder. So yes, I suppose the claim that employment's created is true to a degree. So yeah, I find that's a positive. Someone is being paid to do this stuff, to correct these heinous errors of a shade of blue being the wrong shade of blue. So there's a positive. The other positive is that some of these yachts and private jets look cool, and I suppose it helps push technology, helps push technology advancement that super yachts and private jets demand. So there's a positive. the people that are the guests that fly on these private jets and go on holidays on these super yachts, I suppose they have a great time because these super yachts are, floating holiday camps, opulent floating things, amusement parks. So I suppose that's a positive. And so the other positives are that the other positive is, if you're in the market to buy a super yacht, don't get one brand new, get a second-hand one, because you get a bargain these days, especially a previously owned by a Russian oligarch super yacht. You're going to get a bargain. So that's a real good positive. So there you go. I've offered some great positives there. That being ultra wealthy provides society. Discount super yachts, previously owned by Russian oligarchs. A great time if you're a spray painter of brand new private jets and someone wants their plane repainting because it's the wrong shade of blue. Great time to be in that business. And what else? Great entertainment in the news. Finding out how much money people are spending on their opulent, unnecessary lifestyles. And I'm really trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice. Anyway, I suppose a strange video today. I'm sure that I'm coming across less serious, but I do want to. But the issue is real. What I'm talking about is real. It's a moral and ethical discussion, really. It reflects the zeitgeist of the time that we live in, and people do suffer as a consequence, and governments, elected people, governments are responsible. Actually, I don't really hold governments wholly responsible, because in today's modern world, governments are not really controlled by the political business that has been elected, and that is another video. Politics, as I've said in another video, is more of a installed facade to give the impression that elected people run countries, when in actual fact, even in the modern day West, we definitely have a situation where governments do and are controlled by a hidden hand, hidden influences. Now, I'm not saying that all these influences are bad, or good, but we don't really have a world anymore where countries are run by countries with elected people anymore. Governments have been set up, countries have been set up to be run by corporatocracy, by large organisations that wield a lot of very quiet power in the background. And I think I will leave it there before I run out of energy to talk about these fabulous topics. Anyway, I'm going to say goodbye. I hope this is of interest to someone, I do welcome any comments, please, especially negative comments and criticism, because that enables me to improve, and I'm aware that the scope of what I'm doing can improve greatly. So please be critical down below, and I hope everyone is well, and let's speak again.